About a week after my great-grandmother passed away, I was over visiting my grandparents, and we were all sitting around, talking as usual with nothing out of the ordinary. Well, suddenly, their landline phone rings, and the number on the caller ID shows no name, and only the numbers 000000000. My granddad does this joke when he gets a weird call from someone he doesn't recognize and says, "I don't know anyone named by this number," and lets the answering machine get it. So a minute later, it shows that the ominous number left a message on the answering machine, and we play it. As the message plays, there's about 10 seconds of static noise, like someone had a bad connection, and then it stops. And we hear a woman's voice saying, "I love you," and we all immediately turned and looked at each other and didn't say a word. A few more seconds of static follow those words, and the message ends. We all recognized the voice as belonging to my great-grandmother. What adds to my belief that it was her is that she had this weird thing where she would never say the words "I love you" to anyone. She was a sweet lady, but something about those words, she would just never say them, even if you said them to her. So I believe she regretted that and needed to pass the message along to my granddad. Nothing else happened since, but I always remember that experience. This actually just happened to me. My grandmother ended up having cancer in her liver and her lungs. She was in the hospital for about 16 days and had a very small chemo treatment the day before she passed. It had been about 6 months since he had passed when the phone calls occurred. Since I worked in an ER at the time, I always wore my Fitbit in case there was ever an emergency call at home and I didn't have my phone on me. There had been a few family issues around this time, with an aunt everyone hates selling things of hers and stealing from my grandpa. I cried and pleaded out loud for God or my grandma to ease my worries and hurt. I fell asleep soon after. I woke up suddenly to my Fitbit vibrating like crazy. I looked down and started checking who had texted me or called. It said missed call from Grandma Brenda and missed call from Grandma Brenda home. I stared at my Fitbit and thought, okay, her cell phone line is gone. And 2, even if her phone is still working, my grandpa has his own cell phone. And 3, why would my grandpa be up at 3 a.m. and call me out of all people? Anyway, I grab my phone and see the notifications don't even show up on my phone or in my call log. And then all of a sudden, I get 2 notifications on my phone saying voicemail from Grandma Brenda cell and voicemail from Grandma Brenda home. I don't know if I should listen to them because I was freaked out, but I did. And the first one was of her saying, "I hope all is well with your school, work, and your mom. I love you, and just remember that always put your stress and worries aside. Call me back soon." That was enough for me. I didn't even listen to the second voicemail. My dead grandmother had just voicemailed me from heaven. My grandpa passed away a year ago almost, and I was sitting in the living room with my grandma, chatting and having some snacks. The house phone started ringing. She picks up the phone and her face went completely pale. She hangs up and started crying. Now my grandpa had just passed at this moment, and we were all really sad and depressed, since he was such a kind and caring soul. My grandma explained to me through tears that my grandpa had just called her. She said she recognized his voice, and he was whispering that he was okay and that my grandma would be okay too, even without him. They had been married for over 61 years, and they were still madly in love when he left us. This helped my grandma a lot, and she wasn't a believer in paranormal stuff, but it made her think a lot about that, and is really open-minded about this stuff now. We often discuss this, and we all agree that it wasn't some kind of bad joke. We had a lot of strange things happen after his death, but always on the good side of strange. I miss him a lot, but it helps me think he's okay and showing us he is.